okay? So we're not going to paint on paper anymore. We're going to paint on canvas. So in the green basket over on the counter, underneath the process board over there, there's a green basket full of canvas pieces. So canvas is actually fabric that is made for you to paint on, okay? Because it's fabric that we're going to paint on, you can see it is floppy, right? It doesn't stay, like I can hold a piece of paper and it stays straight. My canvas does not want to stay straight. It is sagging because it is fabric, okay? This makes it tricky for me to paint on it and get it successfully to the drying rack, right? It's like a noodle. So we're going to use half-board scrap. I understand why that's doing that. We're going to use backboard scrap. So behind the basket of canvas over there on the side counter, which is on the paper cutter, there's a big section of random like foam core and matboard scrap. So when you go to take this down, one side is more fabric-y, like you can actually see the texture of the fabric. The other side has like a plasticky like white coating on it. It's that white coating side that you want to paint on. So what you're going to do is just tape. So I'm going to tape just a little edge so that I have a little white border around my painting. But also it gives me a way now to pick this up and move it to the drying rack without it flopping and getting paint all over, okay? So we've been practicing on paper and now we're moving on to canvas. So if you've been struggling a little bit to get enough paint on your paper, you're going to notice today that you are really forced to put a lot of paint on the canvas because it has texture. It's not smooth. It has canvasy texture. And we will, like I said, we won't paint on paper ever again. We're moving on to canvas and we'll paint everything else the whole rest of the school year on canvas. We're going to start today with apples. So apples are nice to begin painting with because they're spherical, so they're round. And it gives us a contrast between the wall and the table. So remember, we're going to talk a lot today about brush strokes and the direction that you use your paintbrush. When you go over to the counter, there are two different apple sheets. One looks like this. It's just the drawing of the apple. The other one looks like this. It's basically the same drawing of the apple, and it has the instructions on it as well. It doesn't matter which one you use, actually. They're both about the same. So step number one is going to be for me to transfer the drawing of the apple onto my canvas. So I'm just going to kind of find where I want that to be, and I'm going to trace around the elements that I need, which will be a shadow for the, that's about all I need. And I know it doesn't show up super good on the camera. You don't have to trace around it when you're working, because I can see it. I just want you guys to be able to see it. The one thing that you do have to add is a table, okay? I don't want to add my table way down here. That would mean my apple was floating, okay? If an apple is on a table or an object is on a table, the table line will go through the body of the object, okay? So now I have a wall, I have a table, and I have an apple. Wall, table, and apple. Those are the three sections that we're going to paint from today. I am, as always in a painting, going to paint from the back to the front. So my furthest back thing is my wall today. And walls, we associate walls with being vertical, right? They're up and down. So because walls are up and down, I am going to paint my walls up and down. I'm only going to use vertical brush strokes. You will notice too that I'm not using one color of paint at a time. I have mixed green with my yellow. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm painting straight up and down. Up and down, up and down. I want to think ahead a little bit while I'm thinking about my wall and my table. So what color I think I might want my apple to be, right? If I paint a red wall, I obviously can't paint a red apple. Oh, it would be like camo apple at that point. I won't be able to see it. So you kind of want to think ahead. You also want to make sure that you're using at least 2 colors, because we want our wall to have some variety. So I just grabbed a little bit of blue. So I've made my wall go from yellow to green to kind of this darker blue over here on this side. Oh, it looks really dark up there on the screen. It's not quite as dark up here. I don't want it to be one flat single color. Flat, plain color tends to be really boring in a painting, so I want there to be some variety. I want to see my brush strokes, okay? I want to see the marks that I'm making in my paint as I move across my canvas. So you can see that I have a lot of variety in color as it goes across. I've only painted straight up and down, straight up and down. It's that straight up and down feeling as I paint that will give me that sensation that there's a wall behind the apple. I am now going to work my way forward to my table. The table, I am going to paint side to side. So same idea, I'm just painting side to side instead of straight up and down. Tables are horizontal. They're not vertical. We can set stuff on them. You'll also notice I did not wash my paintbrush. Okay, I'm using some of the same color that I had in my brush from my wall right down here in my table. A little bit of that carryover of paint color builds unity in my painting so that things aren't completely and totally separate colors. There's some linking, there's some crossover between the sections of my paintings with that little bit of paint that's left over in my brush. The other thing that I'm going to paint while I'm down here on this table is the shadow underneath my apple. I am using blue for that shadow. While you're painting your apples today, you do not want to use black, right? No black. Black will tend to look super artificial in a painting, and we'll notice it right away. It will stand out too much. So I can use the blue mixed with the brown that I've put down here on the table, and I can make an acceptable shadow by mixing the blue in with my brown, and I don't need to use black. Okay. I'm going to paint a red apple. I painted a green apple last hour. So before I make my red apple, I'm mixing a little bit of green paint into my red to make a shadow color. So I'm going to start first with that darker shadow color. And wall was straight up and down, table was straight side to side. My apple, everything now will be rounded. So I'm going to bring my brush just right along here, right into the shadow, and I have this dark red paint. So I've mixed my red with a little bit of the green, painting right over the edge of both the wall and the table. The shadow for the apple ends up down here around the bottom edge. It also ends up back here, behind what we call the shoulder of the apple. So I'm going to make sure that I put the shadow color back here as well. Now I'm going to switch and just grab some actual red paint, which will continue to blend with the darker red that's in my paintbrush because I have yet to wash my paintbrush. So I'm painting right over the top of some of that shadow. Partially, those colors will mix and blend together as I'm painting, and partially it will show through, like underpainting style. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give my apple a little bit of a highlight. Actually, I'm going to give it a little more shadow too. And I'm going to switch to yellow paint. And I'm going to put that yellow paint right here at this front section of my apple. And I'm now painting kind of with curved vertical lines to sort of add that sensation of the marks that will tend to be on an apple. Those kind of striations that are in an apple itself from the way an apple grows. So all of the marks that I use to paint my apple are curved. Keep running back through the red. I want this sensation here of there being a section of my apple that comes forward. And now I need a stem. And I'll lift this up and show it to you because I know it looks a lot darker on the screen than it does in real life. And my stem needs a shadow on the apple itself back here. Okay, so I have finished an apple. I understand that it won't, you might work on yours longer. Here's what it looks like in real life without the camera correction, okay?